A man reads the final chapter of a web novel he's followed for 10 years. Minutes later, while riding the train home, a mysterious creature appears and announces that everyone must complete deadly scenarios to survive. He realizes with horror that the novel is becoming reality. But before we understand how Dok-ja knows what's coming next, we need to go back and learn about this web novel that changed his life. The story is called 3 Ways to Survive the Apocalypse, and it was once extremely popular in Korea. After 10 years and over 1,000 chapters, only one reader remains, a man named Dok-ja. He started reading this epic tale back in middle school and kept reading it all the way into adulthood. In the novel, the protagonist Yoo Joong-hyuk fights against hardships sent by angry gods as the world nears complete collapse. His companions fall one by one during these terrible trials, but Yoo Joong-hyuk is always determined to become stronger no matter what. Dok-ja found this story very inspiring, and rereading the novel actually helped him push through his difficult high school years when mean classmates harassed him constantly. After finishing school, Dok-ja went to a mediocre college, worked some mediocre jobs, and eventually joined a big company on a temporary contract. Today is a significant day for 2 reasons. That contract ends, and so does the web novel. After his final work shift is over, Dok-ja reads the very last chapter. He's extremely disappointed by the ending because Yoo Joong-hyuk is the only survivor. Everyone else had to sacrifice themselves so the hero could live. Frustrated, Dok-ja decides to send a message to the author, complaining that this story has the worst ending ever. On the train ride home, Dok-ja bumps into his coworker Sa, whose contract has also ended today. They start chatting about their situation when their conversation gets interrupted by their former boss. This guy keeps hitting on Sa no matter how many times she says no. Thankfully, he gets off the train at the next stop. At that exact moment, Dok-ja is shocked to receive a reply from the author. The message thanks Dok-ja for reading until the very end and admits that Dok-ja was the only reason the novel was actually finished. The author says something strange. If Dok-ja hated the ending so much, he should try writing his own when the service starts at 7 p.m. This brings us to our opening scene. The train suddenly shakes violently and comes to a complete stop while a voice makes an announcement. The planetary system 8612's free service has ended. And this is the start of paid content. Dok-ja checks his phone and confirms it's exactly 7 p.m. His heart races because this is exactly how the novel starts. A creature from Korean folklore called a Dok-ja appears right there on the train. When one passenger starts insulting it and demanding the train move, the Dok-ja gets angry and shoots the man in the head with its laser eyes. The passenger falls down immediately and everyone starts panicking. The creature shuts everyone up by making a scary face. Then the Dok-ja announces that the gods have decided humans are horrible beings who deserve to be punished. All humans will be given stages to complete, and how they solve these stages will decide their fate. Soon, holograms explaining the first stage appear floating around the passengers. The rules are simple but terrifying. In 10 minutes, they must eliminate 1 or more living organisms in the train car. Those who succeed will receive 300 coins. Those who fail will suffer the same fate as the man who just passed. The Dok-ja also mentions that powerful beings called constellations will always be watching from space. Outside on the bridge, the train is frozen in place, and so are all the cars on the road. As the hologram starts a 10-minute countdown timer, passengers check their phones and discover there's no service at all. Soon, people completely lose their minds and begin fighting each other violently. Some team up against single victims. A terrified woman tries to escape to another train car, but there's an invisible force field at the doors keeping everyone trapped inside. When Dok-ja looks at the other car through the window, he's absolutely shocked to notice Yoo Joong-hyuk standing in the crowd. He realizes with complete certainty that they're living the actual events of the novel, which means Dok-ja knows the future. A giant monster suddenly appears in the river below and hits the train hard, causing everyone to get thrown against the ceiling. Dok-ja remembers something crucial from the novel. The rules say they must eliminate any living organism. It doesn't have to be humans at all. There's a kid in the car called Galong who has an ant farm with him. Dok-ja grabs it and takes it to Sa. He gives her some ants before trying to explain the solution to the panicking crowd, but nobody pays any attention to him. Everyone is too busy fighting. When Dok-ja crushes an ant, a hologram appears saying he's won the coins. This finally gets everyone's attention. He tells them about the ants, explaining they can all survive. But there aren't enough ants for every single person in the car. As everyone starts complaining and panicking again, their former boss suddenly steals the ant farm from Dok-ja's hands. The desperate crowd surrounds the boss instead, fighting over the container. Dok-ja notices there's still one guy viciously beating up an old lady in the corner. He tackles the man and offers him an ant that got stuck on his hand during the struggle. However, the guy coldly turns him down, saying he wants to eliminate the lady instead. Dok-ja realizes with shock that this is Nam-won, one of the characters from the novel. Nam-won starts beating Dok-ja up badly, saying he'll be his victim instead of the old woman. As Dok-ja tries his best to protect himself from the blows, he remembers something important. In the novel, humans have stats just like in video games. He quickly uses the 300 coins he earned to increase his strength stat and punches Nam-won with all his power. The punch sends Nam-won flying across the entire car and crashing into the wall. However, Nam-won responds by activating his special skill called Grim Dark Awakening, which allows him to easily overpower Dok-ja in just seconds. At that moment, the crowd accidentally drops the ant farm while fighting over it, and a tube full of ant eggs rolls out onto the floor. Dok-ja destroys the entire tube and receives a huge payment in coins, thousands and thousands of them. He immediately spends 3,000 on stamina and another 3,000 on agility. Now the tables have turned completely. Dok-ja dodges all of Nam-won's attacks with his increased speed and knocks him down hard. A terrified Nam-won promises not to hurt the old lady anymore and desperately asks for just one ant to save himself. But Dok-ja coldly says that Nam-won doesn't deserve to be in this story. Then Dok-ja runs to act as a shield for the woman since Nam-won is trying to attack her one more time. Dok-ja puts an ant in the lady's hand and closes it to crush the insect before the timer reaches 0. The voice announces that the stage is over, and all the losers immediately get a hole blasted through their faces. Unfortunately, the last ant has managed to escape from the old lady's hand, and she passes away as well despite Dok-ja's efforts to save her. The Dokab reappears and congratulates the 17 humans who successfully passed the first stage. Now it's time for them to receive gifts from the constellations for their performance. Dok-ja remembers that the constellations are powerful beings watching the stages from outer space who enjoy laughing at human struggles like it's entertainment. Each passenger gets a list of constellations that want to sponsor them, and they must choose one. But accepting sponsorship means that debt must be paid back someday. Dok-ja decides to turn down all sponsorship offers for now. Suddenly, the train starts falling on its side because the river monster is trying to drag the entire car down into the water. A former soldier is desperately trying to open the doors with his bare hands. And Dok-ja recognizes him as the character Yeon-song from the novel. This is someone who will be important later. As the train starts touching the water's surface, Dok-ja teaches Yeon-song how to access and use special skills. Yeon-song activates his super strength ability that allows him to bend the metal doors open like they're made of paper. Everyone quickly climbs out of the sinking train car while Dok-ja notices that little Galong is still inside, crying over his destroyed ant farm. Dok-ja apologizes for ruining it and brings the boy out safely. As the survivors run across the bridge as fast as possible, the voice announces the new stage. They must successfully cross the bridge to survive. The monster smashes a huge section of the bridge to create a massive gap before going back down to the river. To make the task even more difficult, the Dokab drops a train car on the bridge and makes all the passengers who just passed chase after the living players like zombies. The way this story keeps getting more intense with each scenario is absolutely crazy. I'm really curious, what country are you watching this from right now? Drop your country name in the comments. Dok-ja and Yeon-song try to fight off these zombie-like attackers, but they're easily overpowered by the sheer numbers. At that crucial moment, Sam manages to activate her special skill, which creates a temporary road made of energy across the gap in the bridge. The survivors start running on this magical bridge to escape. Dok-ja informs everyone that poisonous gas will spread very soon, so they urgently need to get underground for protection. He thinks they should go to the nearest subway station for shelter. But then he remembers something terrible from the novel. Yoo Joong-hyuk actually passes away at that station while fighting a powerful dragon. Yoo Joong-hyuk used a regression skill to go back to the beginning of the story, but everyone else in the station ended up passing. If they want to survive this scenario, they must keep Yoo Joong-hyuk alive so he won't need to reset everything. Dok-ja thinks he can help Yoo Joong-hyuk survive by using his knowledge of the future from reading the novel. Meanwhile, Yoo Joong-hyuk is using both a sword and a gun to bring all the zombie attackers down with incredible skill. Then he approaches Dok-ja and asks him a direct question. What did he do to change things, since Nam-won wasn't supposed to pass away so early in the story? Dok-ja shares what will happen at the station and pretends he has a prophecy skill that lets him see the future.
내가 이미 본 소설 속 얘기라고 말해도
Joong-hyuk grabs him by his tie and holds him over the edge of the bridge, demanding to know what tactics to use against the dragon. Dok-ja panics completely and doesn't know what to answer in the moment. Joong-hyuk tells him to meet him later at the station if he wants to cooperate, then casually drops Dok-ja into the water below. The giant monster immediately swallows Dok-ja whole, and he lands inside its stomach. The hologram announces a new hidden stage. He must defeat the monster from inside and escape. The Dokab named Bihong is also there inside the stomach, narrating everything for the livestream that the constellations are watching. Dok-ja shocks Bihong by calling it by its actual name. He also knows that Bihong is a 9th level Dokab, and doing these streams means it can ascend to a higher level one day. Dok-ja cleverly points out that he's probably very popular among the constellations right now based on his performance. So if Dok-ja passes away here, Bihong will receive serious backlash from disappointed viewers. Bihong checks its donation counter and confirms that the watchers absolutely love Dok-ja's entertaining style. Impressed and convinced, Bihong agrees to sign an exclusivity contract with Dok-ja for future streams. Then the monster's stomach starts filling with dangerous acid that will dissolve Dok-ja. He asks Bihong to open the special shop and buys a bunch of metal spikes to block the acid ducts. This is something he learned from reading the novel. By blocking all the ducts, the monster will eventually pass from the inside. However, there are literally hundreds of ducts to cover. Dok-ja refuses to give up despite the impossible task. He keeps working frantically until all the ducts are finally covered with spikes. Afterward, Dok-ja inserts his hand into the monster's skin and brings out its valuable nucleus. He asks Bihong to trade this nucleus at the shop for a very rare item called Ether of Faith. Before Dok-ja leaves the dead monster, Bihong gives him an item starter pack as a bonus gift, which includes a protective mask. Dok-ja puts the mask on before going outside since the poisonous gas is already spreading in the area. He collapses exhausted on the shore and starts getting tons of sponsorship offers from impressed constellations, so he turns all the notifications off to focus. Next, Dok-ja stops at a convenience store to get some food and finds some bodies inside. 2 girls have already passed, and the third one is barely alive and in critical condition. Suddenly, a giant mantis monster breaks through the store window. Dok-ja picks up the barely surviving girl and starts running down the street as fast as he can. The creature chases after them aggressively, destroying everything on its path. Dok-ja manages to slide into the subway station entrance and brings down the security gate just in time for the monster to crash into it and get blocked outside. In the station corridor, a group of thugs appears. They're surprised to see that the girl, whose name is Haiwan, is still alive. Dok-ja remembers this scene from the novel. These guys beat up and badly harmed Haiwan before. He spends 1,500 coins on increasing his strength and starts beating the men up to protect her. The leader activates his special skill to attack, but Dok-ja easily dodges all his moves with his enhanced abilities and when the rest of the thugs are about to gang up and attack together, a bunch of other survivors show up with a man named In-ho at the front. This causes the scared thugs to leave immediately. The group from the train is also at this station. So tells Dok-ja that In-ho is actually a congressman who leads the survivors here by convincing high-level players to go hunting for coins and share them with the residents. Meanwhile, Little Galong has acquired a special skill that lets him communicate with and befriend insects. Dok-ja asks about Joong-hyuk, but he isn't at this station at all. This makes Dok-ja wonder if his decisions and actions have already changed the story from the original novel. At that moment, some men remind all the residents that in 3 hours they must pay the required survival fee. The high-level players charge this fee to keep everyone protected until the monster living in the tunnels is defeated. Some desperate people risk going hunting for the money they need, but others pass away on the spot when they can't pay. A crowd surrounds Dok-ja and asks him to share his coins since they know he has a lot of them. Who told them about his coins. In-ho admits he did. He assumed Dok-ja was rich because he saw him use great abilities to fight earlier. In-ho apologizes for being rude and asks Dok-ja to please help the desperate residents who can't pay. But this makes Dok-ja remember that In-ho is actually a bad guy from the novel. In the story, In-ho sold himself to the constellations and gave up his humanity completely, so he became a monster. Knowing this, Dok-ja refuses to give In-ho anything. The crowd goes crazy and starts getting aggressive, so Dok-ja agrees to help them in a different way. Instead of just giving them money, he'll finish the entire stage by defeating the tunnel monster. Dok-ja puts together a weapon using random metal scraps lying around, and his team heads down into the dark tunnel. Haiwen shares how the thugs actually ended people to steal their coins, then brought the bodies to the station while pretending they got the coins from hunting monsters.
죽으면 갖고 있는 코인을 떨어뜨리거든요.
Dok-ja knows from the novel that she was supposed to pass away in that store, so saving her has changed things. The tunnel is extremely dark, so Galong summons tons of fireflies using his insect skill to light up the entire place. Soon, a whole horde of monsters appears from the shadows and a vicious battle begins. Most of the team uses their weapons and quickly defeats the creatures as they come attacking. Su realizes that her special skill is shooting sticky web material, so she uses that to attack and trap monsters. Unfortunately, the last standing monster manages to capture Su and drags her away into the darkness. The group chases after them desperately and finds Su tied up with webs at the end of the tunnel. A hologram welcomes them to the ground rat's shrine and tells them they must eliminate the Warden of the Dark to complete this stage. A much bigger and stronger monster appears, and Dok-ja moves first. He dodges the creature's tentacles before hitting it hard with his weapon. However, an invisible force field suddenly blocks his attack and sends him flying backward. Yansong moves next, and his powerful blows do manage to land on the beast, causing it to jump onto the ceiling. Then the monster activates a skill called Illusory Prison, which captures the body and ravages the mind. If someone gets caught in this terrifying skill, they'll be forced to relive their most horrific memories over and over until they pass from the mental trauma. The skill manages to trap Haiwen, who watches the painful memory of her and her friends getting caught by Inho and his gang of thugs. Luckily, Dok-ja manages to free her from the illusion just in time. He runs to grab Galong before the boy gets captured too by the spreading effect. Unfortunately, Yansong gets caught in the illusory prison and starts seeing the worst memories from his traumatic days in the army. Dok-ja tries desperately to save him too, but his attack is blocked by the force field. However, the impact does cause some little glowing rocks to fall from the ceiling. Suddenly, the boss monster roars loudly to summon even more of its minions to help. Dok-ja calls Bihong to open the item shop and tries to buy something called White Star Pure Energy, but he's exactly 1,000 coins short of the price. Meanwhile, Haiwen keeps fighting off the smaller monsters bravely. With a big jump, she manages to land on the back of the boss monster. Dok-ja follows her example and starts defeating creatures rapidly until he finally earns the money he needs. The White Star energy is inserted into his makeshift weapon, which gives him a one-time critical hit ability. Dok-ja copies Haiwen's jumping technique and slashes the back of the boss monster with all his strength, finally defeating it. The horde of smaller monsters runs away in fear, and the illusion effect disappears completely. Yansong is finally free from his traumatic memories. Dok-ja remembers from the novel that Yansong is constantly haunted by guilt for not being able to save his military friends, which holds him back. Checks the treasure chest they received for finishing this difficult mission. Haiwen gets 2 short swords. Yansong receives a powerful gauntlet. Galong gets a helmet that improves his bug communication skill. Su gets a mysterious coat with unknown abilities. And Dok-ja receives what looks like a broken sword.
괜찮아요. 다 쓸 때가 있겠죠.
The others are confused by the useless-looking weapon, but Dok-ja doesn't tell them that this is actually called Broken Faith. If he can find an Ether of Faith item, this sword will become complete and extremely powerful. Galong asks about the glowing rocks that fell during the fight. Dok-ja explains that if someone eats those rocks, they'll put their mind into an illusory prison state. Station stage isn't finished yet because there's one monster left to defeat, and that monster is actually Inho himself. The group rushes back to the main platform. Haiwen quickly jumps on the gang leader to finally end him as revenge for what he did to her friends. Inho sends out the rest of his men to fight, so Haiwen receives a new skill from a constellation sponsor. This skill allows her to slice through all the thugs in just a few seconds, defeating them all at once. Inho has no choice but to fight personally. He punches a concrete column to show off his incredible strength. His arm transforms into something monstrous before he attacks Haiwen with his mighty power, but she still manages to keep up with him and pushes him toward the train rails. When Haiwen is about to finish Inho off, the other station residents suddenly stop her. They explain something shocking. They actually don't want to clear this stage because they're afraid the next scenario will be even harder to survive. It's easier for them to just pay the small daily fee and stay here safely. They even admit they hope that Dok-ja's group would get defeated by the tunnel monster so they could collect all their coins from their bodies. The voice announces it's almost time to pay the survival fee. Inho uses this distraction to push Haiwen off and start running away. So shoots her web to help, and Haiwen swings across the tunnel like a superhero to catch up to the fleeing Inho. However, when she's just about to touch him, an invisible force field throws her backward. Them for losing and thinks he's escaped. But suddenly, In-ho gets shot in the head by a sniper from somewhere, which ends the stage. The sniper girl introduces herself as G before collecting all of In-ho's coins as her reward. The team tries to leave the area, but the barrier still blocks their path. G explains they only finished the stage from the previous section of the station. During the chase, they accidentally crossed into a new section, which counts as a different stage. To leave this area, they have to finish the new stage first. G leaves without helping them further. Dok-ja realizes she's another character from the novel, the only survivor from her entire school class and Yoo Joong-hyuk's future apprentice. In the station, the voice announces that this area currently has 104 survivors. They have exactly 10 minutes to reach green zones before monsters come to attack them. There are only 52 green zones available, and they're tiny circles that fit maybe 1 or 2 people. This means over half the people will pass. Everyone immediately starts fighting desperately for a safe spot. A gang led by a man named Pildu has closed off a VIP area and they're charging coins for the spots inside. Pildu has used those coins to buy an automated security system that shoots at people who try to sneak into the VIP area without paying the entrance fee. Dok-ja tells his team to split up and look for available green zones scattered around. G reappears with a message from Yoo Joong-hyuk specifically for Dok-ja. Yoo Joong-hyuk agrees to fight together against the dragon, but Dok-ja will have to leave his group behind and survive alone for the night. Dok-ja remembers how a friend in high school once slapped him in front of bullies so the harassers wouldn't bother with him anymore. His friend said that at least one person should survive the bullying. Using his knowledge from reading the novel, Dok-ja goes to a specific spot on the platform that hasn't turned into a green zone yet. Hong appears to announce that some green zones will vanish while new ones will appear in different locations to add more tension and drama. The spot directly under Dok-ja turns green, and he tells his team they'll have to fight others for survival tonight. However, Hye-won makes a different choice. She chooses to fight the monsters instead of fighting other humans for a safe spot.
그냥 그때처럼 싸우면 되는 거 아닌가?
The 10-minute timer runs out and the beasts appear in the station to eliminate every person who isn't standing on a green spot. The other team members decide to help Hye-won fight, and after some hesitation, Dok-ja follows them as well. He thinks that green zones will appear in the most dangerous places to make the show more entertaining for the watching constellations. Understanding how this whole scenario works like a twisted game show really changes everything. Speaking of games and entertainment, are you enjoying this recap so far? Hit that like button if you are. The group splits up to go to the 2 monster portals where creatures keep spawning. The beasts keep eliminating people on the main platform. But Dok-ja's team manages to hold their own using their skills and teamwork. To Dok-ja's surprise, Yoo Joong-hyuk is waiting by one of the portals, just calmly watching Dok-ja fight the monsters while protecting little Galong. The green zone here is only big enough for 2 people, and Yoo Joong-hyuk is already taking 1 spot. He says he'll only fight the monsters alongside Dok-ja if Dok-ja abandons the kid to his fate. On the other portal, the rest of the team finds a 3-person green zone, so they manage to save themselves from the horde. Dok-ja refuses to abandon Galong and leaves the boy in the green zone with Yoo Joong-hyuk before running away. Keeps all the monsters' attention focused on himself. When they tackle him to the ground, he quickly eats one of those glowing rocks he saved earlier. His body is taken into the illusory prison state, which actually saves him from the beast's physical attacks. Sadly, this also forces him to watch the time he fought his best friend to satisfy his harassers back in school. Dok-ja won the fight that day, and later learned the other boy self-deleted because of the guilt and trauma. Dok-ja has been feeling guilty about this ever since. He hated the ending of the web novel because Yoo Joong-hyuk sacrificed other people to save himself. Dok-ja wants an ending where the hero can survive together with his loved ones instead. Suddenly, Yoo Joong-hyuk uses a special skill to enter Dok-ja's illusion. He tells Dok-ja that he should have fought his harassers instead of fighting his friend. Yoo Joong-hyuk admits he used to think like Dok-ja once, but after going through dozens of terrible battles, he learned that humans are trash who will always betray you. In the morning, Dok-ja wakes up and discovers his team brought him to a private room while he was unconscious. They fought the monsters all night long to protect his body, and Yeonsong got badly wounded in the process. Dok-ja realizes with dread that today is the day Yeonsong is supposed to fight the dragon in the novel. He'll have to pass away instead of Yeonsong to save him and change the story. The voice announces that today there are 57 survivors remaining. Ihong informs them that the constellations are extremely angry because some people helped each other instead of fighting for the green zones. As punishment for ruining the entertainment, they'll only get one single green zone today.
다들 단합해서 이 자리를 뺐든지.
Whoever is standing on it when the timer ends will be the only survivor. The green zone appears under Pildu, who doesn't look bothered at all. He's confident he can hold it. Dok-ja tells Ji that he has a plan and asks for her help, but she refuses coldly. To make her feel guilty, Dok-ja mentions how she ended her own classmates to win the first stage. She starts crying but leaves anyway without helping. Then Dok-ja calls Bihong, who confirms excitedly that the constellations absolutely love Dok-ja's story and are donating tons of money. Dok-ja asks Bihong to transform all the donation money into coins for him to use. He approaches Pildu with an offer. He wants to hire Pildu for the day with all his coins.
한 10만 코인이면 되나?
Pildu takes the deal and passes the glowing green square to Dok-ja, who immediately starts smashing it repeatedly with his sword. The crowd tries to stop him, thinking he's gone crazy. But Ji finally understands the brilliant plan and shoots the green zone with her sniper rifle to help destroy it. Goes out completely. Now there are no green zones at all. Dok-ja points out something important to everyone. If there weren't any green zones from the very beginning, people would have united to fight the monsters together. That way, everyone could survive instead of fighting each other. He transfers the 100,000 coins to Pildu to finish their deal, asking him to protect every single person here.
어쩌라고! 여기 있는 주민들 한 명도 죽으면 안 돼!
Who allows the crowd to enter his VIP zone for free. Then he brings out all the advanced weapons he bought for his security system earlier. When the monsters come pouring out of the portals, Pildu opens fire with everything he has. Soon there are huge piles of creature bodies stacked by the portal entrance. Some creatures manage to escape the bullets, only to be brought down by Dok-ja, Sa, and Haiwan working together. At that moment, the ground suddenly opens up and a massive dragon appears, breathing fire on people and ending them instantly. With a combination of gun and sword, Yoo Joong-hyuk easily fights the dragon and strikes it several times with incredible skill. The constellations aren't happy that such a high-level player has arrived to make things too easy, so they decide to raise the difficulty level. Suddenly, the entire station shatters like glass and appears floating in outer space among the stars. The dragon transforms its body into something steel-like and nearly indestructible. This transformation wasn't in the original novel at all.
이건 소설이 없던 건데?
Yoo Joong-hyuk tries to attack it, but his sword gets completely shattered on impact. He summons a new sword and tries again with the same result. The dragon quickly overpowers Yoo Joong-hyuk and stabs him with his own weapon. This doesn't stop Yoo Joong-hyuk from trying over and over again despite his injuries. Dok-ja opens his starter kit and swallows an item that will protect him from the dragon's flames. Su uses her web to drag Yoo Joong-hyuk out of the monster's deadly grasp, and Dok-ja bravely takes over the fight. The dragon keeps bringing him down with powerful attacks, but at least its fire does absolutely nothing to him, thanks to the protection item. While the dragon is distracted fighting Dok-ja, a huge insect monster suddenly tackles it to the ground. It turns out that since this creature is a bug, Galong can control it using his skill. However, he also feels all the pain that the monster experiences. Unfortunately, the dragon is far too strong and is beating the bug up badly, which may end Galong very soon from the shared damage. Yansong refuses to lose another friend and rushes forward to fight, which awakens his special hidden skill. The gauntlet on his hand transforms into a massive shield that stops the dragon's attacks. The ground rises up to block and trap the dragon. Then Sa creates a web bridge for Haiwan to jump on. She lands on the dragon's back and slashes its body several times. Now Yansong can break through the rock wall to push the dragon down hard, and Dok-ja tries to stab it in a vital spot. However, the dragon flies up into space to escape their attacks. A flashback reveals the team's plan. They need to stab the dragon's core to defeat it, but doing so will also end the attacker. The mission reward will give them a special item to revive one person who passed.
코어 껍질을 깨면 무조건 죽게 돼 있어.
So shoots her web again and restrains the dragon while Dok-ja jumps to finally stab it in the chest. But the sword doesn't go through the scales at all. Ji shoots the dragon's chest from her sniper position to make a crack in the armor, but the monster pushes Dok-ja off before he can finish the attack. The chest wound closes itself immediately and the team loses all hope. Suddenly, Yoo Joong-hyuk finishes defeating the rest of the smaller monsters and fights the dragon again with renewed determination. After exchanging several powerful blows, he manages to pierce the core successfully. The dragon's breath covers them both in fire.
김독자.
Just like in the original novel, Yoo Joong-hyuk's flaming body falls to the ground and his regression skill activates to send him back in time. Dok-ja watches in despair as everyone around him starts to disappear like they're being erased. He thinks it's all over. At that exact moment, Dok-ja is shocked to see a notification. The author has accepted his trade request in the market and is sending him the Ether of Faith item. Dok-ja immediately puts it into his broken sword to transform it into a complete attribute weapon with incredible power. The rest of the team surrounds the dragon and keeps it distracted with attacks, giving Dok-ja precious time to jump on it and finally defeat it for good. The voice announces that the stage is over and everyone has survived. Dok-ja uses the revival reward to bring Yoo Joong-hyuk back to life. The station turns back to normal, no longer floating in space. Yoo Joong-hyuk is genuinely surprised to see that Dok-ja survived the dragon's end thanks to the special completed sword. The crowd celebrates their victory, and now Dok-ja is absolutely sure they can write a completely new ending for this story, one where everyone survives together. If you enjoyed this incredible story recap, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.